Whoa, Wednesday! That's what today is, and what we did last Wednesday was taste beer, and you guys seem to like it, so this Wednesday...
we got a butt ton more beer.
Yeah, so let's go through all of these in one sitting. Round two, fight! Let's go ahead and start with a little bit of local love. Give this guy a try. A little bit of Buzzsaw Thunder. Look at that awesome dude on the front right there. That actually, fun fact, comes from a caricature of somebody that we know. And I'll link a YouTube video below that will be pretty entertaining, hopefully. So Iron Goat is a local brewery here in Spokane. A lot of you are from Spokane or around, so you already know of Iron Goat Brewing Company.
It went from really little to like giant, you know what I mean?
Like really huge. Just really big. So let's go ahead and give this guy a taste. Pale Gold boosts bold aromas of grapefruit, pineapple with hints of mango, papaya, citrus pith, and finishes clean and slightly heavy with mild, lingering bitterness.
My first impression is that it smells like orange juice, which is probably a good thing considering they're calling it a juicy IPA.
Yeah, you get some of that pithiness really up front. A little bit of sweetness in the middle. I don't know, for me, sometimes sweetness in juicy IPAs is a little bit of a disconnect flavor. But this isn't bad, actually. And this, you can tell this is, I'm guessing this is a fresh can. This tastes pretty fresh. Tell us when it was brewed.
That sweetness kind of fades into really a neutral finish. It's not necessarily lingering bitterness, but it's really not much of anything else. Really, I think the best part of this is the aroma. It definitely has like a straight up orange aroma to it.
And after that, the grapefruit, I think the grapefruit was right on there too. And it's kind of pleasant. It tastes, it's got a good round middle. I wouldn't say it's anything to like write home about, but it's a overall pretty pleasant beer.
Probably not a session, but great for a session drinker, as the finish is quite dry on it, and I could sit down and, you know, throw back a dozen of these if I wanted to.
Yeah, I'd actually even say this is a good like introduction juicy IPA for a lot of people who maybe have liked IPAs or are fledglings in the craft beer world and want to take that next step and find out what a juicy is. And that's it for Buzzsaw Thunder.
Bam!
Schmecked. Next. We've been talking a lot about Northwest style IPAs or Northwest style pale ales, anything like that, and how they are what we used to know and love, and that we kind of wish and hanker for people going back to that. Shortly after talking about that, boom, Pelican brings us a sample of their Northwest style India Pale Ale called the Dirty Bird.
Well, look at that. What do you know?
Well, that's exciting. I'm going to go ahead and pop this open, Kobe it up. That made it into the trash can like I expected, and let's go ahead and give this a taste. Clearing the bottle, don't have to worry about the dregs.
Wow, nice. Look at that, beautiful, crystal clear.
Classic Northwest style, like orange, almost ruby color.
Got more malt sweetness to it. Pretty subdued hop characteristic, actually, all through and through, other than a distinctive bitterness. More fruity on the aromatics, almost a little bit of like malt aromatics, malt sweetness on the aromatics coming through.
Yeah, just a little bit of kind of like a lemongrass light touch on the nose, but then going into the palate, you get a lot of that. A little bit of like kind of grassiness, but then a distinct bite from classic old world hops, generally that are high on the terpenes and humulines that create a lot of that kind of mouth coating kind of flavor, which, you know, really that's what you need to balance out a, you know, heavy front malt bill. You got to have the aggressive hops to balance it out.
Yes, smells and tastes a little bit too crystal-y for me, but that's just my personal preference. I think if you're calling this a Northwest style, then that's pretty much nailed it.
Yeah, I really like this, actually. I'm also not a huge fan of crystal malts, but it doesn't taste like it's cloyingly crystal. It's not overly crystal. It's just definitely there. And my one thing is, if it tastes like this and you call it a West Coast IPA, if it tastes like this and you call it like especially a juicy or a hazy IPA, that's a no-go in my book. But if it tastes like this and it's a Northwest IPA, you did good, kid.
Bam!
That'll do, pig.
There you go.
That'll do, pig. Next up, so while we stay in the IPA, if you've never been to Ruben's Brews in the Seattle area, I highly recommend it. It's a really fun place to go to, and their beers, especially fresh at the tap room, are always great. That said, distributed beers are always different than taproom beers, so try them both wherever you are. This one smells pretty fresh, pretty lemony, and a little bit dank.
Yeah, this one's weird. This one's
Bet you I can guess at least one of the hops that's in this.
My nose is finally just starting to come back to me.
Oh yeah, packaged a month ago. Always a good sign. It is 53 IBUs. That doesn't really matter. This is very, very bitter for the type of beer it is. Like I said, IBUs is just a number. You can have 100 plus IBU beers that don't taste bitter at all. You can have 53 IBU beers that taste incredibly bitter and in a really good way too.
Palate melt, yeah. Yeah, this actually comes through really, really classic Simcoe kind of marijuana-y leafiness. Is that a descriptor? I don't know.
Marijuana leafiness. Oh yeah, and it definitely has some tropical undertones too. You get a lot of the tropicalness, but being a distributed beer, it's not surprising that the tropical stuff will fade a little bit earlier than everything else. That's just kind of what happens. Overall, I'd say that's a nice summer IPA, just a classic, like...
Yeah. Body's super light. Body's the lightest of all these beers too.
Which I think, I know I personally appreciate that. That's my style of IPA. Yep. I think you're on the same boat as me. Overall, 3 pretty solid beers. Number 2 and 3.
I would drink them all.
Yeah, definitely within what style they said. Well, all 3 of them pretty damn good.
I wouldn't complain if I got served one at a bar.
Let's go on to, this one was highly touted by our rep, and she says that this is an amazing beer. So I'm super excited to try it, but we wanted to try it after all the IPAs because this has coconut and coffee in it. So I don't know if our palate's going to recover back to IPA world after something like this.
Beer number 4. This is Scuttlebutt's Night Circus, for all those that are actually wondering what we're drinking out there.
Scuttlebutt Night Circus. From what I understand, Scuttlebutt actually got a new brewmaster not too long ago.
I think like a year ago.
Not that the old brewmaster was bad or anything like that, but I think the new brewmaster is maybe a little bit more inventive.
Creative, you could say.
Likes to, create new things rather than sticking to what's worked for forever. Scuttlebutt's always been a pretty good brewery, though.
Oh, this is heavy roasted. Heavy roast on the aroma.
One nice tip on low carbonation beers to pick up aroma is when you swirl, actually swirl covered, and then try to grab a sniff right when you open it up, because you're trapping in all the aromatics, and then when you go for a nose, and you can get it a lot quicker. And highly effervescent beers, it's a lot easier to grab a nose off of it because you've got all those bubbles pushing off the aromas. But in lower carb beers, it's not always as easy. So,
and it's a good thing that they put this coconut in here, because the aroma I get this, and really, it's actually not the most pleasant aroma, to be honest. That roast quality comes through extremely strong on it, but as soon as that hit my tongue, the coconut blew up and just completely balanced out any of those roasty qualities.
I got a balance. I actually got a little bit more of the coconut, but it tasted like toasted coconut, like air toasted coconut.
Yeah.
With some of the coffee and some of the roast character that was on the front, on the nose at least.
Yeah, sweet, mellow.
It's sweet without being thick. I think that's important to say. Sometimes it perceives sweet, even though by like gravity-wise or actual sugar content-wise, it might not be that sweet, but it perceives sweet. But overall, this is a very pleasant beer. I really like this. Highly flavorful beer. Sometimes that's not always what you want, because sometimes it's better to have a beer that you can session on a little bit more and not have that flavor kind of build. But this one is a highly flavorful beer, and I think I could probably have a couple of these. I don't know if I could do a lot of them.
Yeah.
But overall, it's a good beer.
Yeah, I can see this being a really great entry beer to dark beers in general.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you're one of those people that don't particularly enjoy the overbearing roastiness of stouts, porters, things like that, then this might actually be a good beer to kind of get you into that wheelhouse without getting you too overwhelmed.
So I'm a huge fan of Fremont. I have a good relationship business-wise with Fremont at the bar that I own downtown. And so every time that their big beers come out, I'm always, clamoring to grab a hold of these. These are actually 2017 versions of these beers, but we've got 2017's Kentucky Darkstar. It's just it's the coffee KDS, and then we've got 2017's Rusty Nail as well, which both really big, really phenomenal beers. One thing that I'll say about most of the Fremont beers, as I keep going back to, we're not a huge fan of sweet things, and a lot of times when these beers are fresh, they're a little bit too sweet for me, but now being aged to around a year and a half, they should be mellowing into a really nice spot, and so I'm excited to try these out. So I can already tell this has dried out a lot since
this is super coffee
inception. Very coffee, and it's got like a strong molasses and then almost sweet honey kind of note to the front on the nose. Definitely some booze. Boozy sweetness can kind of portray itself as a lot of different things, but boozy sweetness often balances with sometimes that like deeper molasses kind of sweetness that can come in these beers.
Way better than the aroma.
I get a good amount of green pepper in this.
Yep, I can get that too.
And I'm not sure I hate it. I actually kind of think I'd like it as a diversion from what you're probably supposed to taste in this beer. When these beer bottles are fresh, they're too much for my palate. Honestly, they're too much flavor. I like more delicate things, generally speaking. But this is really coming into an age where I think it's drawing up, it's popping off a lot, and that sweetness, that thickness has come down quite a bit.
God, the vanillins are really popping through too. I don't know if they oak this or what, but
oh yeah.
But yeah, it's on top of the coffee, that green pepper coffee bite, really vanilla bomb.
The nose is weak.
Typically, I get these really complex dark fruit flavors from beers like this. You know, really like dried, intense pruniness, and I don't get any of that. Is that just me, or?
I do get some of that on the palate. It's really hard to pick up on the nose on this one, and I think that's not necessarily because it's not there. But I think it's because it's covered up by so much other flavor. This is an intensely flavored beer, which, like we've said, that's just intensely flavored isn't really either of our styles, and so our lack of acclaim for this beer is probably largely based on that. But that said, this is a very good beer for what it is. It's
and the booziness is minimized as far as I can tell.
Yeah,
like that. There's not for being as big. Because what are these things? This
one's 12.7%.
Yeah,
and this one is. Not on there.
Something we probably could have looked at.
Hey, look, they do have the down and dirty. Okay, let me give you a quick rundown. Barrel-aged Darkstar Imperial Oatmeal Stout with coffee aged in bourbon barrels. So this year's release is a blend of 1812 and 8-month bourbon barrel-aged Darkstar in 12-year Kentucky bourbon barrels. The roast and chocolate malts complement the smooth oats to bring you a stout delight wrapped in the gentle embrace of bourbon barrel-aged warmth. The warmth is definitely there. I think they're underplaying the amount of other stout flavors that are there. A touch of sweetness dances in balance with the hops to finish with a wave, and then she's gone. The sweetness is definitely not finishing with a wave. The sweetness is there, a lot.
It's like a very large wave from a northerly storm.
It's less of a dance and more of like a maraca. It's a tango line. 2-row pale malt, roasted barley, C60, chocolate malt, Carafa 2 with flaked oats, and then Magnum Willamette and Cascade hops. Not that the hops make any difference in a beer like this. To kind of sum this one up, as a fledgling drinker, this was like very much in my style. I used to love beers like this that are big and had just a ton of flavor. I like to get slapped over the face. I think both of us have kind of evolved into having a much more delicate palate and appreciating nuance a little bit more. And this doesn't quite satisfy that. Still a very good beer. I would say drinking this is definitely a phase you have to go through to become a certified beer nerd. But for a lot of us that have drank a lot of these kind of beers, it's tiring to the palate, and it's not something we want outside of a special occasion and outside of 4 or 5 ounces, really. Speaking of, if you want to see a really expensive beer pong, we've been considering the idea of doing the most expensive beer pong in the world with beers like this.
Please don't say yes if you don't want to see and meet people everywhere.
Don't say yes. 2017 Rusty Nail, much like Deschutz's Black Butte Anniversary Ale, changes year to year to year. And so in this one, it's an Imperial Stout brewed with licorice and cinnamon bark added. I think it changes year to year. I'm only like 35% positive of that now that I think about it. The Rusty Nail spending 15 months in 12-year-old bourbon barrels pounds your palate, challenge your perception of all that you've known of beer, and leaves you wanting another sip.
All right, Rowan, this is way sweeter.
I get some mature, like almost single malt kind of flavors off of it.
Oh man, it's just like overwhelmingly like I mean, you said molasses on the last one, but this is woo.
Yeah, so on the nose I get like really mature, almost campfire like flavors. I think the aging process is a big part of that.
Oh god, this is so sweet.
There's a lot of sweet flavors going on there.
This is like if somebody were to try to make, what is it, Belgian candy sugar?
Yeah.
You know, that kind of sugar over a fire. Like, you get a little bit of that smokiness, but it's just so much complex sugar in there.
When you first have a beer like this, you get kind of wowed by the intense flavors that are in it. It's got a lot of great flavors to it. It's really complex, and it's really flavorful, but it's just kind of too much for us.
Well, I think that about sums up this tasting of our Hump Day tasting sessions, and my child's awake again. But now he's up and wants to finish this beer, so we're not going to let him do that.
He's about to fall back. We're not going to let him do that this time. Yeah, we're
Till
not.
Next time on Genus Brewing. Viva la beer!
Viva la beer!
Like, subscribe, hit all the stuff. Buy some swag from us. We're not wearing anything today because we just suck that way.
Let us know what you thought of the video in the comments section down below.
Babies! Distractions.
There's always like people bustling around, so I was like, are they coming in? What's going on?
And then he always looks down at the little monitor we have here, which we probably should just like turn around because he always tends to look at that. That's not actually where Hal is.
Gotta make sure that I know I'm looking good in the monitor.
Thumbnail.
As I just drooled.
Yeah, you're disgusting.
I don't know what you pitched it. We gotta wait. It's not getting better.